First contact in crisis. The crystalline spires of the Nexus Defense Center caught the triple sun's light, casting rainbow patterns across the gathered council of species. High Administrator Zyravel, her translucent body pulsing with anxiety tinged by luminescence, faced the assembled representatives of the most advanced civilizations in known space. The emergency session had been called for one reason. Their most sophisticated models predicted the complete collapse of the Helios barrier in less than one standard cycle. The barrier's quantum matrix is destabilizing at an exponential rate, she projected, her thoughts translated into various sensory formats for the assembled species. When it fails, the gamma ray burst from the dying star cluster will sterilize 17 inhabited systems. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of chemical signals, electromagnetic pulses, and harmonic vibrations, their species' various expressions of horror and despair. The Helios barrier, constructed over millennia by combining the most advanced technologies of a dozen species, had protected their sector of space from the deadly radiation of a dying star cluster. Its imminent failure threatened billions of lives. Our finest quantum engineers have attempted to stabilize the matrix, continued Zyravel, her own light patterns dimming. But the fundamental forces involved exceed our ability to manipulate them, the energy requirements alone. What of the Arcturian solution? Pulsed constructor prime vector, their mechanical form humming with carefully modulated frequencies. Their gravity manipulation technology would take decades to implement. Even if it would work, interrupted Defense Coordinator and Fly, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. We have months at most. The Council descended into chaos again, each species proposing and dismissing increasingly desperate solutions. Their civilizations had evolved in the most stable, hospitable regions of space. They had achieved technological miracles through careful, methodical advancement. But none had developed the tools or temperament to handle such extreme, chaotic conditions. That's when First Scout Kira, previously silent, sent a pulse that cut through the noise. There may be another option. The young scout's bioluminescence flickered with uncertainty. During my last deep space survey, I detected signals from an uncontacted species. They're primitive by our standards, only recently achieving faster than light travel. But what? Zyravel prompted, noting how Kira's patterns showed equal parts fascination and fear. They evolved on what we would classify as a death world. Their planet experiences regular natural disasters that would destroy most civilizations. Their atmosphere contains corrosive oxygen. Their gravity is crushing. They endure temperature extremes that would kill most species. And yet, Kira's light pulsed with growing excitement. They don't just survive these conditions. They thrive in them. They've developed technologies specifically designed to work in chaos and extreme environments. The council chamber fell silent. The concept was almost impossible to process. What kind of species could evolve in such conditions? What kind of intelligence could emerge from such constant destruction? Show us, commanded Zyravel. Kira projected their survey data. The council watched in stunned silence as images of Earth filled the chamber. They saw humans walking casually through snowstorms that would freeze most species solid. They watched them dive into pressures that would crush most beings into quantum paste. They observed them working in radiation levels that should have destroyed their molecular structure. They call themselves humans, Kira continued. And while their technology might seem primitive, it's designed to function in conditions we consider impossible. They regularly work with energy levels and fundamental forces similar to those destabilizing the Helios barrier, not through advanced quantum manipulation, but through what they call brute force engineering. You're suggesting we ask these Deathworlders for help? Vector's mechanical form vibrated with skepticism. They barely understand quantum mechanics. They may not understand it the way we do, Kira countered, but they understand how to work with raw forces in ways we never needed to learn. Their entire history is one of turning hostile conditions to their advantage. Zyravel studied the data with growing interest. Where others saw primitive solutions, she began to see elegant adaptations to conditions her own species had never needed to consider. These humans had developed their technology not through careful theoretical advancement, but through desperate necessity. First Scout Kira, she decided, her bioluminescence steady with authority. Prepare a first contact team. If these humans are even half as capable as your data suggests, they may represent our only hope. And if they can help us save 17 systems, her light pulsed with the gravity of the moment, we may need to reconsider our definition of advanced civilization. As the council dispersed, Zeragal studied the images of Earth again. Such a hostile world. And yet, perhaps its very hostility had forged exactly the allies they needed. Sometimes, she reflected, true advancement came not from pursuing perfection, but from learning to embrace chaos itself. The human solution. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her lab at CERN, staring at the holographic data the alien delegation had just shared. Around her, the assembled team of Earth's top scientists and engineers studied the specifications of the failing Helios barrier, with expressions ranging from fascination to disbelief. The aliens, crystalline, gaseous, and mechanical beings that challenged her understanding of what life could be, waited with barely contained anxiety. "Let me get this straight," Sarah said, running her hand through her short black hair. "You've built what's essentially a massive energy shield using quantum manipulation, but now it's destabilizing because the fundamental forces have grown too extreme to control with your current methods." "Correct," pulsed Zeraval, her crystalline form shimmering. "Our most advanced quantum technologies cannot contain the cascading feedback loops, the energy requirements alone." "Yeah, forget the quantum stuff," interrupted Mike O'Malley, a burly nuclear engineer who'd spent 20 years working in the most dangerous reactors on Earth. He was studying the energy flow diagrams with growing excitement. "Look at these patterns. They're not that different from what we deal with in containment scenarios." Sarah nodded, already seeing where Mike was going. "You're trying to be too elegant," she told the aliens. "Sometimes you need to fight fire with fire, or in this case, force with force." "I don't understand," Vector hummed, their mechanical form expressing confusion through subtle vibrations. "Your technology is far more primitive than ours. How could you possibly?" "Primitive doesn't mean ineffective," Sarah cut in, pulling up simulations on her holographic display. "Look, you're trying to use quantum manipulation to delicately control these forces. But what if instead we just contained them? Brute force, like building a dam to hold back a river." The aliens watched in growing fascination as Sarah and her team sketched out their proposal. Instead of trying to control the quantum matrix directly, they suggested building what was essentially a massive containment field using principles derived from Earth's nuclear reactor technology, scaled up to astronomical proportions. "It's not elegant," Mike admitted, "but it's robust. We've been containing potentially catastrophic reactions for centuries. Sure, we use cruder methods than quantum manipulation, but that's exactly why it might work here. Sometimes you need a sledgehammer, not a scalpel." "This solution seems dangerous," Nethle swirled anxiously. "The energy levels involved." "Everything we do is dangerous," laughed Dr. Yuki Tanaka, who had joined them from Japan's deep-sea research division. "We split atoms for power. We dive into volcanic vents to study extremophiles. We launch ourselves into space in controlled explosions. Danger is just another variable to account for." The aliens exchanged what Sarah interpreted as looks of bewilderment. Zeravel's crystalline form pulsed with a new pattern that the translation matrix rendered as cautious hope. "Your species truly is remarkable," she projected. "Where we see impossible conditions, you see engineering challenges. Where we seek to control chaos, you embrace it and turn it to your advantage." Sarah pulled up more detailed specifications. "We'll need to modify some of our existing technologies significantly. The scale alone is unlike anything we've attempted before. But the basic principles are sound." She grinned. "And if there's one thing humans are good at, It's scaling up dangerous ideas until they work. The next hours flew by as the human team worked with their alien counterparts, combining Earth's robust engineering principles with the advanced materials and manufacturing capabilities of the Council. What emerged was unlike anything either civilization had created before, a hybrid of human pragmatism and alien sophistication. It's not pretty, Sarah admitted, reviewing the final plans. But it should work. We're essentially building the biggest, most sophisticated containment field ever conceived, using principles we developed for handling nuclear reactions, but scaled up to astronomical levels. And your species is willing to help implement this? Zyravel asked. The conditions in the construction zone would be lethal to most forms of life. Mike laughed again. Lady, we've got deep-sea welders who work in crushing pressures, engineers who handle nuclear cores, and astronauts who spacewalk through radiation storms. Trust me, we can handle it. As the aliens departed to present the solution to their council, Sarah caught Zuravel's final translated thought. Perhaps we were wrong to measure advancement solely by technological sophistication. There is wisdom in learning to work with nature's forces rather than always seeking to transcend them. Sarah smiled, already mentally assembling her team for the massive project ahead. Sometimes the best solutions came not from having the most advanced technology, but from having the courage and creativity to tackle impossible problems head-on. And if there was one thing humans had in abundance, it was courage in the face of impossible odds. Operation Impossible. The converted cargo vessel Hyperion hung in space at the edge of the construction zone, its reinforced hull gleaming under the intense radiation of the dying star cluster. Inside, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched her crew make final preparations for what the Alien Council had deemed a suicide mission. The ship's cargo hold had been transformed into a mobile construction facility, filled with equipment that would have been impossible to build without the Council's advanced manufacturing capabilities. But the principles behind it all were purely human, tough, reliable, and designed to work in conditions that would reduce most alien technology to its component atoms. Final systems check complete, reported Chief Engineer Hassan Abbas from his station. His dark eyes sparkled with the kind of excitement that only engineers facing an impossible challenge could understand. The containment field generators are as ready as they'll ever be. Maya nodded, studying the holographic display showing the massive scale of their project. They would need to construct a series of interconnected containment fields around the failing Helios barrier, essentially building a cage around a quantum explosion. The Alien Council had provided the materials and manufacturing capabilities, but the implementation was all human. Status report from the Alien Observer Team, Maya asked, though she could guess the answer. Still refusing to board, Communications Officer Chenwei replied with a slight smirk. They'll monitor from their support vessel at the theoretical safe distance. Can't really blame them. The radiation levels where we're heading would liquefy their crystalline forms. Their loss, Hassan shrugged. They'll miss all the fun. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Her crew had been handpicked from among Earth's most experienced extreme environment specialists. Deep-sea engineers, volcanic researchers, high-energy physicists. People who made a living doing what most species considered impossible. All stations. This is the captain, Maya announced over the ship's comm. Commence approach to initial construction coordinates. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do. The Hyperion moved steadily closer to the failing barrier, its reinforced shields handling radiation levels that would have overwhelmed alien vessels. Through the viewports, they could see the quantum matrix's deterioration. Beautiful and terrifying patterns of energy that signaled the imminent collapse of the protective field holding back the star cluster's deadly emissions. The first challenge hit them 6 hours into construction of the primary containment node. A massive surge in the quantum matrix sent energy levels spiking far beyond their initial calculations. Primary containment field is holding, Hassan reported, his fingers flying over his console, but barely. These energy levels are off the charts. The alien models didn't predict this level of instability, Dr. Sarah Chen added from her science station. The deterioration is accelerating faster than expected. Maya watched the readings climb, remembering similar situations from her days, managing nuclear containment crises back on Earth. We need to adapt the design on the fly. Hassan, can we reinforce the containment field using the principles from your old pressure vessel designs? Hassan's eyes lit up. The ones we used in the Mariana Trench facilities. It's crazy, but yes, we could modify the field geometry to create a similar effect. It won't be pretty, but it might just work. Do it, Maya ordered. Dr. Chen, coordinate with the alien support vessel. Let them know we're modifying the design. The next few hours were a blur of rapid calculations, emergency modifications, and the kind of seat-of-your-pants engineering that humans excelled at. The alien observers watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as the human crew essentially rebuilt their carefully planned containment system on the fly, using principles developed for handling everything from deep-sea pressures to volcanic vents. Captain, Chen Wei called out suddenly. Incoming transmission from the alien support vessel. They're asking if we've all gone insane. Laughter rippled through the bridge. Tell them probably, Maya replied. But insanity has gotten humanity through worse situations than this. Hassan, how's that modification coming? Field geometry reconfigured, he reported. It's ugly as sin, but the containment is holding steady. We're actually seeing better stability than the original design. Through the viewports, they could see their work taking shape. Massive containment nodes interconnecting around the failing barrier, looking more like a deep-sea construction project scaled up to astronomical proportions than the elegant quantum technologies the aliens typically employed. Sometimes the best solutions aren't the prettiest. Maya mused, watching their hybrid of human engineering principles and alien materials do what advanced quantum technology alone couldn't accomplish. They just need to work. As they continued their construction, pushing through conditions that would kill most species, Maya reflected on humanity's unique place in the galaxy. They weren't the most technologically advanced species, but they had something just as valuable: the ability to face impossible conditions with innovation, determination, and a willingness to try solutions that more advanced civilizations would never consider. The real test of their jury-rigged solution still lay ahead, but Maya had faith in human ingenuity. After all, humanity had built its entire civilization by turning hostile conditions to its advantage. Why should the challenges of space be any different? Against all odds. The warning klaxons aboard the Hyperion blared as another quantum surge rocked the ship. Captain Maya Rodriguez gripped her command chair, watching as crimson emergency indicators lit up across every display. Status report. She barked, her voice steady despite the chaos. The barrier's collapse is accelerating exponentially, Dr. Chen reported, her face illuminated by the red warning lights. Our containment field is holding, but these energy levels. She shook her head. We never designed it to handle this much power. Main field generators are at 147% of maximum rated capacity, Hassan added, his hands dancing across his console. The alien materials are incredible, but even they have limits. At this rate, we got maybe 20 minutes before total system failure. Maya studied the holographic display, showing their containment field network. They'd managed to establish the primary structure around the failing Helios barrier, but the quantum destabilization was far worse than anyone had predicted. Their solution was working, just not fast enough. Options, she asked, her mind already racing through possibilities. The alien support vessel is suggesting we withdraw, Chen Wei reported. They say the situation is beyond salvation. Hassan snorted. They said that about the Fukushima cleanup, the Mars dust storms, and the Europa mission. We're still here. Maya nodded, a plan forming in her mind. It was crazy, dangerous, and exactly the kind of thing humans did best. Hassan, those modifications we made to handle the pressure differentials, could we reverse them? The engineer stared at her for a moment before his eyes widened with understanding. You want to? Captain, that's insane. We'd be basically turning our containment field into a quantum pressure cooker. Exactly. Maya stood, moving to the holographic display. Instead of trying to contain the energy, we channel it. Direct the force of the collapse back in on itself. Like triggering a controlled implosion. Dr. Chen breathed, catching on. Use the barrier's own collapse to power its reconstruction. The aliens would never attempt something so dangerous, Hassan said, but he was already making calculations, one mistake in the timing. Then we don't make mistakes, Maya replied. This is what humans do. We take impossible situations and turn them into opportunities. Wei, inform the alien vessel to maintain their distance. Things are about to get interesting. The next 15 minutes were a symphony of coordinated chaos. The human crew worked with the kind of focused intensity that came from countless hours training for disaster scenarios. They weren't just engineers and scientists anymore. They were artists painting with quantum fire. Field reconfiguration at 60%. Hassan called out. Energy levels still climbing. Barrier collapse accelerating, Dr. Chen added. We'll only get one shot at this. Maya watched the numbers climb, feeling the weight of 17 solar systems on her shoulders. The Hyperion shuddered as another surge washed over them. But her crew never wavered. Field reconfiguration complete, Hassan reported. Ready on your mark, Captain. Maya took a deep breath. 17 systems, billions of lives, all hanging on whether a crew of primitive humans could do what advanced alien civilizations thought impossible. Execute. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, like a star being born in reverse, the failing barrier imploded. Energy levels that would have destroyed most species' technology were caught, channeled, and turned back on themselves in a dance of forces that defied conventional physics. For one terrifying moment, everything hung in the balance. Then, it's stabilizing. Dr. Chen shouted. The quantum matrix is reestablishing itself. It's actually working. Through the viewports, they watched as the Helios barrier reformed, stronger than before. Their crude but effective solution had done more than patch the problem. It had reinforced the entire structure. Incoming transmission from the alien vessel, Wei reported, grinning. They're asking if we meant to do that. Laughter erupted across the bridge, the release of tension palpable. Tell them of course we did, Maya replied, sinking back into her chair with a smile. We just didn't know if it would work until we tried. As the crew began damage assessments and system checks, Maya reflected on what they'd accomplished. They'd taken alien quantum technology, combined it with engineering principles developed for Earth's harshest environments, and pulled off what multiple advanced civilizations had deemed impossible. Captain, Wei called out, the Alien Council is requesting a full report on our methodology. They seem particularly interested in how we, what's their phrase, transformed imminent catastrophe into technological advancement. Tell them it's just another day at the office for humanity, Maya replied. Though maybe leave out the part where we made up half of it as we went along. The Hyperion hung in space, its hull scared but intact, surrounded by the newly stabilized Helios barrier. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, not through overwhelming technological superiority, but through humanity's greatest strengths: adaptability, determination, and the courage to try crazy ideas when sensible ones failed. A new understanding. The Great Council chamber of the Nexus was packed beyond capacity. Representatives from all 17 saved systems had come to witness this historic session. High Administrator Zyravel's crystalline form pulsed with bright patterns as she addressed the assembly. The human delegation sat in a specially reinforced section of the chamber, their environmental needs having required significant modifications to the usually delicate council architecture. Captain Maya Rodriguez and her crew had traded their pressure suits for formal uniforms, though they looked slightly uncomfortable in the lighter gravity. We gather today. Zyravel's thoughts resonated through the translation matrix to acknowledge a profound shift in our understanding of civilization and progress. When we first detected the primitive radio signals from Earth, we dismissed them as irrelevant. When First Scout Kiera suggested seeking their help, many thought it foolish. We were wrong. The chamber filled with harmonic acknowledgments from dozens of species. Maya watched as patterns of light, chemical signals, and electromagnetic pulses created a symphony of alien communication. The humans didn't just save 17 systems, Zyravel continued. They demonstrated that true advancement comes in many forms. While we pursued ever more elegant quantum manipulation, they developed technologies to work with raw forces we deemed too chaotic to control. Where we sought to transcend natural laws, they learned to work within them, and in doing so, achieved what we thought impossible. Constructor Prime Vector's mechanical form hummed with agreement. Our initial analysis of human technology labeled it primitive because it relied on brute force rather than elegant manipulation. We failed to recognize that this very characteristic made it more robust, more adaptable, and ultimately more practical for certain applications. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped forward at Maya's nod. The solution we implemented wasn't just human technology, she said, her words translated into dozens of alien sensory formats. It was a true collaboration. Your advanced materials and manufacturing capabilities made our theoretical solutions practical. We succeeded because we combined our different approaches. Indeed, Zyravel pulsed. And that brings us to the purpose of this gathering. The Council proposes a new initiative, the integration of practical technologies. We seek to formally combine human engineering principles with our advanced technologies. Imagine containment systems with the elegance of quantum manipulation, but the reliability of human pressure vessel design. Imagine ships that can withstand the extremes of space, using both our sophisticated materials and human structural principles. The chamber erupted in a cascade of excited communications. Maya exchanged glances with her crew, seeing their pride reflected in each other's eyes. They had done more than save lives. They had opened up new possibilities for both human and alien civilization. There is another matter, Zyravel announced, her patterns shifting to formal configurations. The Council has long ranked civilizations by their technological sophistication. Today, we recognize this system as flawed. Technology is not just about manipulation of quantum states or elegant solutions. It is about solving problems, about turning hostile conditions into advantages, about finding ways to survive and thrive in an uncaring universe. She turned to directly address the human delegation. Humanity's homeworld would kill most of our species within minutes. Your history is filled with disasters that would have ended most civilizations, yet you not only survived. You turned these challenges into opportunities for growth. You transformed the very forces that threatened you into tools for advancement. This, we now recognize, is its own form of sophistication. Maya stood, feeling the weight of the moment. We're honored by your recognition, she said simply. But we hope this is just the beginning. Humans have always dreamed of reaching the stars, not just to explore, but to connect, to learn, to grow. We have much to teach each other. Indeed, Zyravel agreed. And perhaps the most important lesson you have taught us is this. True advancement comes not from avoiding chaos, but from learning to work with it. Not from transcending our limitations, but from turning them into strengths. As the ceremony concluded and various species began mingling, carefully, given their wildly different environmental needs, Maya found herself next to First Scout Kiera. You took quite a risk, Maya said, suggesting primitives like us for such a crucial mission. Kiera's bioluminescence flickered with what the translation matrix rendered as amusement. Not such a risk. I observed your species for months before making my recommendation. I saw how you turned the most hostile environments into homes, the most dangerous forces into tools. I saw a species that never stopped trying, never accepted impossible odds. A pause. In the end, I realized that what we saw as primitive was simply practical. And sometimes practical is exactly what the universe needs. Maya watched as human engineers and alien scientists eagerly discussed future collaborations, each bringing their unique perspective to common challenges. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not by becoming more like the advanced species, but by showing them the value of being more like humans. Sometimes, she reflected, the most sophisticated solution was simply having the courage to try the impossible. And if there was one thing humans had in abundance, it was courage.